Good evening and welcome to round 3 of the Prospect here in One Hub Racing. We are at the Hungaroring in Hungary for today's round. Alongside me is Owen Watt. After the first 2 rounds, they've seen Ferrari dominate both races. They could well be the team to beat tonight.
Absolutely, Tom. Hello, and hello to all the viewers as well. And yes, it does feel like we're in a bit of a Ferrari dominance era, doesn't it? Both drivers have got 1 win each. They certainly do look like they are the drivers to beat this season. But look, this is a totally different track to what we've seen in the first 2 rounds of the season. A real challenge, and could lead to some interesting results.
It very much could lead to, and looking at the championship standings after the first 2 rounds, with Fozzie Bear winning last time out in Bahrain. Jason won the opening round in Australia. So Fozzie Bear leads the way by 5 points to Jason. Fozzie Bear has 38 points to Jason's 33. Then it's the Alfa Romeo of Josh Wilkins, who's third on 19, followed by Alex Liat in 4th on 18, and Smithy Chris in 5th on 17. Now, remember, it's the top 12 in each race that scores points, with 20 points for the winner, 17 for second, 14 for third, right the way down to 12th place to get 1 point. There's also a point on offer within the top 10 to the driver who sets the fastest lap, and a point on offer for the driver who finishes outside the top 10, getting that fastest lap out of those in that particular division. And that's providing they do finish the race, of course.
So, just before we get started then, shall we thank all of our sponsors and partners then? We've got Next Level Racing, the sponsors of the league, providing a Next Level Racing direct drive stand to our driver of the season, which is a brand new award. Free M Sim Racing, they're the sponsors of the league by providing a pair of their sim racing gloves to the driver with the most combined poles and fastest laps. That can mean that if you're outside that top 10, those fastest laps could still be crucial. It means everyone's got a good shot at that. And then to our partners, of course, Vespertine, who are our championship prizes provider, which is obviously fantastic, and ERT, the partner of the ERT Going Gets Tough award.
So just looking at the podium finishes of last week, obviously Fozzie Bear ran out on top in that, with Josh Wilkins coming in second place because he won the race on the road, but a time penalty had dropped him back to P2. And on the podium was Smithy Chris after qualifying so well in that. And I think one driver who didn't quite do as well as we thought he would do was Stephen, because after speaking to Jess last night about how he got on, he made a lot of errors in that race that perhaps maybe shouldn't have happened, and it cost him potential points finish and ended up in P12.
Yes, we did see that. That all started really before even turn 1, if you all remember. It was him and Jason who had contact and ended up skating across the runoff area. And they're actually the rivalry that questions were being asked to this week, because of course Jason was being asked about this, and he was saying that the contact towards turn 1, it cost him potentially a podium, but Stephen got his penalty for it, and so there's no real bad blood between them two. But yeah, it was a bit of a disappointment for him last week. Perhaps he can come back strong, but I don't actually think he is there. We do have a few drivers missing. I believe both Alpha Tauris aren't here, and there might be one other, so that's worth pointing out. We have 17 in the lobby at the minute, so hopefully we get one more in.
Mm-hmm. And from our pre-race interviews, of which have been sent out to drivers in the Prospect tier, Josh Wilkins, who's the highest non-Ferrari driver in the Prospect tier this year, he was asked about the track itself, and he's basically said he's not sure that he will be the fastest. He's not sure who is the fastest that will win there, and statistically it's been tricky to overtake at the Hungaroring, and he doubts that the stewards will be very busy after the race, considering how easy it is to lose the car on the curbs at the Hungaroring. Turns 5 to 7 could be the hot spot for the drivers. That was particularly the curves part. I think that inside so-called curb, which isn't necessarily a curb, but it's very easy to get caught out by that. It's one of those that really does entice you to it. And Josh basically said there will be lots of spins, that's for sure. Maybe also a couple of overtakes.
Yeah, it's a shame really that curb spins you so easy, because it is a genuine racing line for all the F1 drivers, so it is natural that you'll be drawn to it. But all the drivers, they do know the risk of hitting that curb, so they will have to be careful there. A lot of drivers are making sure that they're thinking about the spins really and the accidents, keeping it clean, not getting penalties. That's plenty of drivers' goals. A lot of people in the previous interviews were saying that. And I think they're all sort of aware tonight could be quite the odd round. There were some questions about strategy, but no one really wanted to say what they were going to do. Some people were like, oh, it'll always be the same two-stop as always, but others are just keeping it tight-lipped. They don't want to let people know because really anything could work. You could take an early pit stop here, lap 1, take advantage of people making big mistakes, and you're nowhere near it, you're in the clear, and you're making free spots. Plenty of things could be done tonight, and we'll talk a little bit more about what the drivers said throughout the session, but certainly there's going to be a lot of intrigue tonight, and just what strategy's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if drivers have not come out and said that, you know, what they're going to do in regards to pit strategy, then I actually don't blame them because they don't want to give any important information to their rivals. We're starting to see the lobby readying up now, so we'll be underway for an 18-minute short qualifying session at the Hungary, the home of the Formula 1 Hungarian Grand Prix since 1986. And it's decided the World Championship twice over the years, once in 1992 for Nigel Mansell's only World Championship, and the other time being Michael Schumacher taking his 4th of the 7 titles that he had achieved in 2001.
Yes, back in the days when dominating championships was something quite easy. Ferrari know plenty about that, and like I say, it'll be fascinating to see which one of those two drivers might be on top tonight. I do think one of the good quotes though I saw from these previous interviews was that particularly there'll be more incidents than overtaking. So say Ferrari don't have the best start again. We know that Fozzie Bear, driver of the day last week, I think it's actually the hot driver as well, TDW being the cold driver. But Fozzie in particular, his style so far this season has been start sort of mid top 10, 7th, 8th place, and move up the field. I'm not sure that's going to quite work for him today, and so there is a chance that people like Alfa Romeo, I think Alex Lilliard was saying that he feels Alfa Romeo are the second fastest team behind Ferrari. If they can't qualify Fozzie again, I don't think Fozzie will be able to get past them as easily, and this is a real chance for them to sort of just give Ferrari a few problems.
We were talking about Fozzie Bear last week in regards to his qualifying in comparisons to his teammate. Remember, he was just under 1.5 seconds off the pace of him in qualifying for Australia a couple of weeks ago. But in Bahrain, he was only 7,000ths of a second quicker than Jason.
Yeah, I think it's all over the place, isn't it, with these guys? They sometimes have their strong tracks, sometimes don't. I think Jason had said he quite likes Hungary, so he will be fighting for the podium, he believes, but it is fascinating because I do think those two Ferraris will be the championship protagonists, so we're obviously going to have to put the biggest focus on them. But we're here in qualifying. It's a nice dry track, which is good to see. Is Luke too red a new driver? Because I think he's here in the place of who is it, Linfield, unless he's changed his username. Either way, he's in the Haas tonight, so we'll see how he gets on. The rest of the drivers, you're all sort of aware of them. Matthias wasn't here last week, I don't think. He's there in the Haas. He's actually one of the first drivers out as well, which is nice to see. So we'll see how he gets on tonight.
So Demon already opting out of qualifying. He won't be setting a lap time. We've got Matthias on circuit for Haas. It's worth mentioning those who are on penalty points at the moment, because there wasn't another driver who was given something for Bahrain, and that's Alex Lilliard, who got half a penalty point. I think that must be for his shenanigans with another driver in Bahrain, which we'll go on to in a moment. But those who are on penalty points, now Stevens with the most, with 3. He picks up a couple in Bahrain, which means he's 1 penalty point away from a quali ban. Now, in terms of how the milestones work in regards to penalty points, it's 4 penalty points for a quali ban, 6 for a race ban, and 8 for a season disqualification.
Yes, I think it's good to have these penalty points. It just sort of means that the drivers can hold it back a little bit, because they pay their money to get in here as well. It's not necessarily, you don't want to be losing races. It's there to encourage better racing, and so I like those penalties being there. Hopefully they do keep the points down. It's a short season anyway, so they shouldn't need to worry about it, but it is worth always bringing it up every week, just so that they're reminded of it.
So we're starting to see some drivers start a lap. I think there's a Williams ahead of Matthias who started the lap. That will be... It's not Stephen, it's the other Williams, I would think. Or maybe an Alpine.
I think it's Jess on a night lap. She's actually gone off the track there, left to try and got out of the way, I do think Matthias is first out there. So this will be our first real chance to see sort of the pitfalls of this track, turn 4 being one of them. Now, it's worth pointing out, there has been a little bit of an update to the handling model, and I think since the cars are just that little bit slower, it actually makes this track more manageable, because you've got that little bit more grip at the lower speed, and it means corners like 4, for me anyway, I practice for the pinnacle tier, so I've done quite a lot of laps, as Matthias invalidates, but for me, in turn 4, it's so easy to lose the rear end in the last update, not so much this time. I wonder if the drivers will be taking advantage, if they've picked up on that. That could be crucial to their qualifying laps today. You'll be about 1 second slower than you would have been on the last update. I think Jess was saying it as well. She's trying to get used to the new handling model. A few of them, if they've nailed it and they've recognised where their strong points are with this update, they could have a huge chance. And so don't be so surprised if you see a different name at the top that you maybe weren't expecting.
Well, we are expecting a fierce rivalry over the course of today between Stephen and Jason after their big collision on lap 1 last week, with Alex Lilliart sandwiched in the middle of those two, and despite that, Jason and Alex recovered and finished ahead of Stephen. But those kind of collisions do happen from time to time, but not ideal as to what you want to see on a racetrack. So Infamous coming round then. Stephen has posted the lap time, but it's nowhere near representative, so we're expecting that lap time to come down like a ton of bricks on this racetrack. The Hungary, I think it's the first race Formula 1 World Championship Grand Prix circuit to be held at the Iron Curtain, if I'm correct. And it's a brilliant racetrack and a venue which has been seeing drivers take their maiden Formula 1 victories, including Fernando Alonso, Jenson Button, Heikki Kovalainen, Damon Hill, and of course Esteban Ocon this year.
Yes, Esteban Ocon, obviously the winner of the last race here. I believe this is also his birthday today as well, so happy birthday to him. And yes, this is always a very special track for him, and it's a special track for just carnage races. It happens all the time in F1, happens all the time on the game as well. It just, there's a special thing about this track, because some people would look at it as Monaco without the walls, and I guess it sort of lives up to its name sometimes. Safety cars, you'd expect them a lot tonight, and that's why some drivers are saying that maybe you'll expect some more incidents than you would overtakes. And that's why everyone surely feels they've got a good chance tonight. And let's see how Fozzie gets on, by the way. He's heading around the final corner, because we'll see how he's getting on. He needs to improve his qualifying, as we said, and he's the fastest out there on mediums at the moment. I believe those are just sort of banker runs, so I don't think you'd be wanting to qualify in the mediums. Unless you're looking at doing medium to soft, that could be a strategy tonight. There'll be some variation of soft, medium, soft, or soft, soft, medium, you know, somewhere along those lines, because I don't think you want to go anywhere near that hard tonight.
We've just seen Jason go off the track for a spin at turn 5, but continually wisely moves out of everyone's way, and has gone through a marker board as well, which is not really what you want to be doing. But at least that marker board will be back in place for the race itself. The circuit does default itself with all the marker boards and sponsor boards everywhere around the track. Here's Alex Lilliart in the Alfa Romeo. He is coming through turn 4 now, 27.1 by sector 1. And the drive, and I would say that Jamie, who's just gone second, has posted the best first and third sectors of anyone, which is good to see. And Jamie, who came so close to a top 4 finish, or even a podium in Bahrain, until he lost it on the exit of turn 12, gone into the pits for a new front wing, and finished down the order.
I think there's a big result in there this season for him. You know, at some point he's got the pace. He's proven it twice now, really, in the pre-season race in Brazil and last week, where he just got close but not quite close enough. And if he can improve that middle sector, then he has a real chance. I mean, Matthias' middle sector has to be said 6/10 quicker as Lilliart goes up to P5, 6/10 quicker than Jimmy Metz. I mean, that's a stunning middle sector. So fair play to him. The Haas driver really making a good impression. But yeah, if Jamie can make that step forward, I don't think there'll be anyone who won't want to see that happen.
So Wilkins, who is one of 6 drivers competing today, yet to set a lap time, he's about to set one now. How close will it be? I'm just looking at his times in sectors 1, 2 and 3, and it's not he's going to have a provisional pole on screen here. 1 minute 16.3, that's 3 tenths quicker than everyone else. He's posted the best final sector out of everyone, which is good enough to put into P1.
Decent lap there for him. The best consistency we've seen around the lap from any driver out there today. There's always one bad sector for those guys, but pretty much all three of those sectors were pretty good and consistent, and then the last sector blew everyone away. So good stuff from Josh Wilkins there. Here's Storm. He's coming around to the end of the lap. We'll see how he gets on. Set 2 green sectors so far and is up in 12th place. He'll want to improve on that lap time as the session progresses, but he's got plenty of laps left to do it. I think we're in a little bit of a lull at the minute though, so it might take a while because there's still a few people who are out there on the medians and are not really going to get much done on those. Although, saying that, Wace is improving his time. Wace, who found himself in the wall, didn't he, very early on last week. Another driver who we've seen at the head of both races so far this season, but not quite able to get the result. He had a real chance at a podium at the very least last time. Will he try and make up for it this time round as he comes around that last corner for Mercedes, the sole Mercedes tonight? He's P9.
He very nearly went into the wall actually as he was going through sector 2 there, so he was lucky to keep hold of that lap time he was on, but he goes 9th fastest on the medium, so I'd imagine he'll come back to the pits and put a set of the soft compound on before the checker flag comes out. Just look to see who is on a flying lap. Lutzer's come back into the pit. Storm will be doing likewise, I should think, and whoever is the next driver going to start the lap will go to them next. I think it's Jason who's about to start a lap now in the Ferrari. Second place in the championship, race winner in Australia a couple of weeks ago. Now Hungary is the 3rd round out of 10. And after Hungary, we will go to the Paul Ricard circuit in France, and then Singapore on the 1st of October, then Spa the following week, then Silverstone, the Red Bull Ring for round 8. The penultimate round will be in Austin, and then the final round, the 10th and final round, will be on the 5th of November at the Imola circuit in Italy. And what a circuit I am most certainly looking forward to.
Oh yeah, fantastic. It's good to have it confirmed, isn't it, that it's going to be on the game. As long as Codemasters have no more delays, it should be in the game next month. Obviously we saw Portimao on this month, and so it's good that the drivers might have a little bit of time to practice Imola and get their head around it, because it's certainly fun trying to do tracks, but for a season finale, whoa, what pressure that's going to be. It's going to be a fantastic watch and the perfect way to end the season. But let's see how Jason's ending his lap, shall we? Because purple in the middle sector and a decent first sector as well. This has all the hallmarks of P1, but let's see if he can complete the final sector at a reasonable speed, as Jamie looks to have binned it on the exit of 11, I think that is. That's a real shame. His teammate Ols is off the track as well, but Jason, close, but not close enough to P1. Still though, a front row, not too bad, but that's a real shame for Jamie. He had some really good pace out there, and now he's out of qualifying.
Yeah, it's a shame there for McLaren and for Jamie, who had a good chance of actually going for a top 3 position on the grid, but 4th is the best he can hope for in qualifying now that he's out of the session. So Wilkins is fastest on a 1:16.3, followed by Jason on a 1:16.4. Then it's Matthias in 3rd on a 1:16.6. And then Jamie, who's crashed out, is on a 1:16.9. And Matthias is also gone.
Wow, it's gone up the hill as well towards 4. That's a real bizarre incident. He's lost it on the exit of 3, and it's gone a long way up the hill, but unfortunately could not keep it intact. And so Matthias, another driver who had some decent pace out there, finds himself out of qualifying.
And we just watched Doyle go up to 4th fastest actually in the Williams. That's a very good time actually from Doyle. He was so unlucky in the last race where he could have been in contention for perhaps a top 8 finish, maybe top 6, but problems had curtailed his chances of going for that kind of finish in Bahrain. Ols is on a flying lap. He's currently 9th on a 1:17.9. Now the only drivers who have set their best lap times on the mediums are Wace, who's in 12th, and Lutzred in 14th.
Yeah, I think they've all gone to the sauce so nice, so there'll be sometimes it'll shoot up the table that we haven't seen the best of yet. Josh Wilkins is currently up. He's following the Ferrari of Fozzie Bear, and he's up by 0.3 of a second on his best time already. So this is going to potentially be the first time in the 1:15s if he can get it all right. And hopefully he does, because this should be a blockbuster lap as Indecisive becomes the 16th driver to set a lap time. But Josh decides he doesn't like the 16s anymore. Let's see if he can hit into the 1:15s. Go on, Josh. Oh, so close. But he's certainly certainly seems the dominant driver out there, doesn't he? I don't think
Yeah.
anyone can beat him at the minute.
So Wilkins extends the margin. It stays in the 1:16s, but he's 3/10 clear of Jason in second. We've just seen Ols go up to 5th place, displacing his teammate Jamie into that position. We'll go to, I was almost going to say to Jason, actually. I can't quite tell whether he's on a faster lap time. Yes, he is, actually. He's just posted the best second sector time of anyone. So this could well be a better lap time here, but whether it'll be faster than Wilkins or not is anyone's guess. Well, there you go. He's just come into the pits. He must have made a mistake somewhere. But it's going to be a nail-biting last 5 minutes to this qualifying session here in Hungary.
Yeah, I assumed Jason didn't want to finish that because he was exactly level with Josh's or his last lap time, so we would have had to find a whole 3/10 in the last sector, and it's doubtful he would have been able to do that, so we thought better just to get into the pits and stick a new set of tyres on and be still in sequence. This does mean though that Wace has got the track to himself. Like I said, he was on the mediums, so we expect this to be a faster time, although not having invalidated his lap, which he hasn't done actually, luckily, as he's gone wide but kept it all on the island. He's missing a lot of apex, but his commitment is still enough to have him purple at the moment. And let's see if he can keep this up and possibly find himself at the top of the leaderboards. As he heads around the final corner, it was easily the fastest first sector, maybe a slightly slower middle sector. Third sector was a few wide movements as well. There's definitely time in that lap for Wace. He's gone 4th at the moment, but there's absolutely a P1 time in there for him.
Yeah, so the pole sitter of last week goes up to 4th that time, but like you say, there's definitely more time to be found for him as he made a mistake at turn 11, went wide, and he was actually very, very lucky to keep hold of that lap time as it so easily could have been invalidated. So Wilkins fastest still. We're just waiting for drivers to make their way out on circuit. Doyle's out on track on his outlap, as is Infamous. They're nose to tail at the moment, so it won't be too long before they do start their laps. We'll go to Alex Eliart, who's just started his now. Now, what is he going to produce here? In Sector 1, the best lap time we have seen so far is a 26.8, and it's a 27.1, so he's still some way away from that particular kind of time. Nearly losing on the exit of 5 as well. It doesn't want to be doing too much of that. Over the curves of 6 and 7. 8 is no problem. Turn 9 is another corner that can so easily invalidate your lap time there. But thankfully he's through there very smoothly, actually. He's not actually braving it through these corners. He's just taking it rather smoothly just to make sure he gets these laps in as like bankers, if you like. But I don't know what to expect from Alex in this session, if I'm honest with you. He's thinking more about the race. If he ends up outside the top 10, then at least he's got a free choice of tyre compound to start the race on. Although he will have to make 2 pit stops as it's mandatory. Yeah, I was going to say it's definitely a very, very good lap time. 1:16.6 for him. 2 Alfa Romeos in the top 3, Owen.
Yeah, good stuff for Alfa Romeo. So Alex saying, second fastest team. Perhaps they're going to become the fastest team tonight. Doyle's gone through Sector 1 quicker than he did last time. Not enough to challenge the fastest sectors of this session, but with 2 minutes to go, he's going to still try and make as big an improvement as possible, but not with that. He's lost it on the curb at 6. It's so easy to do it, and once it happens, there's no saving it, unfortunately. And so he does have time to do another lap, although it depends sort of what the fuel levels are, but we'll keep an eye on him, see if he goes again. Infamous in the Red Bull overtook him, and he is slightly down on his lap. I don't think this is going to be trouble in the top 10 unless he had a poor final sector on his last attempt, which he can improve on. So we'll have a look on that. They look relatively good though, his last sectors in previous laps, so I don't know if he'll be able to find enough time here, but let's see if he can at least move up into 11th place and have another go at it. He's got enough ERS to try again, I think, but yeah, it's only gone 11th fastest. So there's Doyle crossing the line. I think his teammates also crossed the line to start a lap. I'm trying to see if there's anyone actually on a flying lap. He's close to the end of it. I don't think there's anyone particularly close apart from Jason, but he's actually abandoned it once again. So shall we watch Fozzie Bear then? Let's see if he can break this qualifying duck, because he really doesn't want to be starting down in 9th place. He needs to be in that top 5 at least.
Yeah, I perfectly agree. He doesn't want to be there. I mean, he was 9th in Australia in qualifying, 5th in Bahrain. He's got to try and get into the top 3 if he can. Wilkins is not going for another lap. Storm is out of qualifying as well. He'll start 15th on the grid. Indecisive Mackie also not going for another effort. And Fozzie Bear through turn 4 as he comes now. 26.9. It's a good first sector. It's not the best we've seen, but it's very respectable. So let's see what Fozzie Bear can find in Sector 2. And now he's coming towards the chicane. He's got no one in front of him that could potentially impede him. Turn 6 was not particularly the greatest, was it? Just on board with him. And he just sort of backed off the throttle a little bit too much and then just started to turn in the car. So that may well have lost him some time. Coming through Sector 2 now. It's half a second up from before. So Fozzie Bear, with the lap time he's producing, I've just seen that Stevens posted the best second sector time out of anyone as he makes his way over the start-finish line now. He's gone 7th fastest with his lap. And now we watch Fozzie Bear coming through the last turn. And this lap time of his is good enough to put him to second place on the grid. That's a good effort.
Look at Jason though, he's challenging for that front row as well. If he can find another 10th in his last sector, he could nick pole position off Josh Wilkins here. Let's see if Jason can strike back at 1, his teammate, and 2, Josh Wilkins. Of course he can. What a lap from Jason, right at the death. It's Ferrari Alfa Romeo, Ferrari Alfa Romeo. What a grid that's looking like. Anyone else on a lap, Waste is invalidated and Luke 2 Red is also invalidated. I think then that might mean we could have our grid confirmed, but I'm not going to go too early because Stephen actually is improving. So let's just see if he can get a good lap in at the end. He's invalidated as well, so I do think it is Jason, like I say, right at the death, who's taking that pole position.
And just watching Infamous complete his last, I think he's the last driver to complete a better lap time than before here. We'll stay with him. So Infamous round in the final corner. Does he go into the top 10 here? No, he doesn't. Doesn't even improve either. So Jason is on pole position for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Josh Wilkins on the front row next to him once again. And it's Fozzie Bear in P3 and Alex in P4. So like you say, 2 Ferraris and 2 Alfa Romeos in the top 4, and all powered by Ferrari.
That is a tasty grid, I must say. It's exactly what Alex said, really, isn't it? Ferrari fastest team, Alfa Romeo's second fastest team, but we know Alex is good at making positions up in the race. If he gets a good launch towards turn 1, he could be right up there. Same with Fozzie Bear, he likes to make those positions as well. So it could be the second Ferrari and the second Alfa Romeo at the start of this race who are making those moves, but still taking nothing away from Jason's lap. It was really impressive stuff. Josh Wilkins as well, good to see him so close. The Ferrari's absolutely still the best out there, but Alfa Romeo definitely showing that they aren't going to be backing down from a fight, and it's not going to be an easy win for Ferrari today, absolutely not.
So a rundown on that qualifying session result then, to see Jason on pole position with Josh Wilkins alongside and around about half a tenth of Drifovin. That's how close it was. Fozzie Bear will have to make it 2 Ferraris in the top 3, followed by Alex Lilliard in 4th. And then it's Mateus in the Haas in 5th, followed by TJW in 6th for Aston Martin. It's Wace in 7th, head of Stephen, Doyle and Ols running out the top 10. Jamie Met and Infamous line up next to each other on the 6th row. Jess is 13th, head of Luke Tured, ahead of Storm and Indecisive Mackie, with Demon starting at the back of the grid. We've got 35 laps ahead of us, Owen, and looking at the briefing that the drivers have been handed out this week. Now, round 2 was another eventful round with some major incidents. The stewards hope to see that drivers improve their racecraft and have less reports over the weekend in the steward's office. Now, the prospects here had the worst behaviour across all 5 tiers with 6 reported incidents. Stephen was handed a 10-second time penalty twice for causing a collision. Smithy and Alex both received a 5-second time penalty, while incidents involving Storm resulted in no further action from stewards.
Yes, hopefully it's a little bit cleaner, but honestly, with how we're looking here, have you seen how dull the weather is there? There could be potential for changeable conditions in this race, so I'm not sure if they'll be able to keep it as clean. It's also such a difficult track to do, and it's the lowest tier. I guess maybe it's not at all a surprise that there's a few more incidents. I wouldn't say there were many massive incidents, but yeah, obviously it's useful to be a little bit cleaner. We'll see how they do today. But really, with a track as difficult as this, I wouldn't blame them if they do have a little bit more trouble. But I have trust in them that they'll do well. Just want to point out as well, good qualifying for TJW because he's been rated as the cold driver coming into this weekend. Fozzie is the hot driver, he's up in P3, so happy enough for him. But TJW for Aston Martin in P6, I don't think he'd really complain about that. I think he's doing well to sort of prove he's not doing too badly, and maybe he can have that cold title removed from him soon.
Yeah, I mean, TJW finished 7th last week, which would have given him, I believe, his first points of the season, because he didn't finish that high in the first race, did he? But, yeah, he's done better than expected. I know, I was looked at the qualifying results of Bahrain, my apologies. So just going to the race results of Bahrain, and TJW finished well down the order, actually, so he didn't score any points that time. But we are, in fact, on the way for the formation lap for this race. It's worth mentioning the sponsors as well. You've already mentioned them earlier, Owen, so I'll just take an opportunity to just briefly mention as well. They are Next Level Racing and 3M Sim Racing, and the partners are Vespertine and ERT. Now, looking at the tyre compounds for each driver, all the top 10 start on the soft compound, which is no surprise because they qualified on those tyres as regulated to do so. And Lutered and Demon also going for the softs. The rest are all on mediums.
Yeah, so let's say the hards being very much avoided. We sort of expected that. You're only going to really use them if there's any incidents at the start of the race. I think we'll take this opportunity. Obviously, there were some pre-race interviews this week, but there were also some post-race interviews from last week, and they were all asked the drivers how did they feel after 2 rounds, and quite a few drivers in here were given their thoughts. Drivers like Jason, the pole sitter who dominated the first race, he actually didn't think he had much of a chance this season. He didn't really think he'd be anywhere near fighting for the championship. He thought, just get some consistent points and learn from time to time. But now he's a chance at the title, so he's really, really happy with how this is going. Other drivers like Alex Lilla, we've already mentioned what he said. He said he's happy with 2 top 5s without penalties being there, and he says Alpha's second best team, so he's happy with top 5s as long as they're still second best. And other drivers certainly maybe not as happy. For example, Smithy, who's not here, he says he's been livid with his start, so when he comes back he'll be looking to do a little bit better. I think also we saw the likes of Jamie, again he's in 11th, maybe on the first driver on mediums he can try and turn his season around, but certainly sort of mixed opinions on how their season's going so far, and on chance now to see if they can improve their seasons. Demon though, spinning on the formation lap, not the best way to do that, although you will heat your tyres up quite nicely.
Yeah, so Demon will be the last driver to make his way onto the grid. It's worth mentioning the point system as to how it all works here. It's 20 points for the race winner, 17 for second, 14 for third, 12 for fourth, 10 for fifth, and it's 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for 12th position. A point on offer for the driver within the top 10 with the fastest lap, and a point on offer for the driver outside the top 10 with the fastest lap out of all those. Outside the top 10, of course. So 17 cars on the grid then for this 35-lap Hungarian Grand Prix, and the prospects here of One Hub Racing. And now the drivers eagerly await for those 5 red lights to come on, and when they go out, we'll be racing here at the Hungaroring. It's lights out, and away we go. Wilkins got a great start off the line. He leads ahead of Jason, who got a very poor start. So Wilkins takes the lead, and Fuzzy Bear's up into second place as well. Fuzzy Bear diving to the inside of the Alfa Romeo into turn 1, and Fuzzy Bear is still into the lead by the looks of it, but Wilkins trying to fight back as they come across into turn 2 now. And it looks so Wilkins is back on the inside, gets his elbows out in front of Fuzzy Bear, and Wilkins is doing to the race leader. Jason gets back into second place as well. Waste gain in front of Alex Lilligart as well into 4th place in the Mercedes. And a brilliant start there from Wilkins to jump straight into the lead there, Aaron Wyatt.
Oh, he's lost it though. He's lost it at turn 4. Jason's nicked back through there, so somehow Jason has recovered his start. Fuzzy Bear, I'm going to try and see if he's got some damage, because that was quite a big knock he received in turn 2 from Jason. Let's just quickly see, because that was very aggressive stuff. They've all got away with it, no real damage there. TJW is at the back of the pack now, so he's had a wee spin. But what a dramatic start that was. Jason doing really well not to lose his composure after having one of the worst starts of the season so far. And luckily, he doesn't get involved in any incidents, and when the 2 in front of him end up wheel binding and losing the rear end, he's there to take advantage. Waste as well has had a really good start. He's up into P4. He's kept it out of the wall this week, so he's still in the race at the end of lap 1. All 20 drivers or all 17 are still out there. And anyone with many major damage doesn't look like anything at the minute, so they should all be in the race. All good. Josh Wilkins not close to make any sort of moves, and this is where we're going to find out how easy really is it to make overtakes on this track.
So Jason, after that dreadful launch off the line, has somehow managed to get back into the lead thanks to Wilkins' error at turns 4 and 5. But Wace, who's made a great start from where he started, just look to see where he started. He started 7th on the grid, and he's made his way up into 4th place. He was the biggest jumper out of all those in the field. So Wace is in 4th place then, ahead of Alex Lilliart. Then it's Matthias in 6th, Stephen 7th, Doyle 8th, Jamie 9th, and Infamous in 10th place. And look to see where the Aston Martin of TJW is. He's a long way behind in 17th place. It doesn't appear to have any damage as Alex Lilliart picks up the first time penalty of the race for track limits. He's now under threat here from the Haas of Matthias.
Yes, it's a poor start then for Alex. He just needs to keep his composure now. It's very early in the race. Last thing he needs to sort of lose your head when you've lost a position and you're getting penalties. Yellow flags for TJW. I am thinking this might be a long day for him, unfortunately. I'm not too sure what's had him off the track at the start of the race. I know he was very far behind. I wonder if he maybe just didn't even get off the line in the first place because there was a car definitely left behind. But here comes Josh Wilkins for the race lead. No DRS yet, of course, until we get to this next detection point. But Josh Wilkins doesn't care about that. He's gone straight through into the race lead then. So Jason didn't really defend that one too much. Perhaps he's thinking about the long game here. Don't ruin your tyres too early on. Some drivers were saying before this race started, you've really got to keep the consistency high. The tyres in a healthy window because it could be crucial at the end of the race.
Wilkins wasting absolutely no time whatsoever in getting past Jason. He moves into the lead of the race as TJW comes into the pits for Aston Martin. I wonder if his pit stop damaged somewhere. It looks like his front wing's completely gone on that Aston Martin. And it's going to be a long way back from there now for the Aston Martin driver. He's going to have to hope for a safety car later on in the race, which is something I don't think we've had this season so far. So it's going to be quite a long race for him as Indecisive gets a time penalty as well for track limits. As we watch Fozzie Bear close in on Jason. Jason's still within a second of Wilkins, which means he'll be able to use the DRS zone, but not only for the start-finish straight, but for in between turns 1 and 2, because this is the only detection point on the circuit for the DRS. And Indecisive is out of the race, Owen.
Yep, that is where we saw Jamie Met lose it in qualifying. There's a potential for safety car there. We'll wait and see if it pops up. It's taken a while. That tends to mean we won't get one. So unfortunately for TJW, he'll still find himself right at the back of the pack there. But there is one Red Bull out of the race. So Infamous, the only Red Bull remaining. None of the leading pack are doing much on the DRS at the moment. It feels like Josh Wilkins is the fastest out there as we now get a virtual safety car. So the field can just slow down a bit. Takes a little bit of the heat out of the tyres. Now it's been upgraded to a full safety car. So it took a while, but now they can possibly even start thinking about the pit stops.
So those on the soft compound, I don't think we'll be thinking about pitting just yet. I think there's still at least another 3 or 4 laps until they do decide to pit in. Now remember, they do have to pit in twice in this race. In regards to what compounds to be on, that's their choice. But either way, they still have to pit in twice. We don't even know what the weather will bring either, so that is something I think the drivers will have to preempt as the race goes on. So Wilkins in the race lead still, ahead of Jason. It's Fozzie Bear in 3rd place, and it's Wace in 4th, ahead of Alex Lilliart, Matthias, Stephen, Doyle, Jamie, and Infamous, your top 10 so far. Jess is the next one behind in the Alpine in 11th position. Just one driver with penalty so far, that's Alex Lilliart. We did have Indecisive on a penalty, but he's now out of the race. But now we've got a safety car. We've got a safety car now, Owen.
Yep, so we're seeing the pit stops. Obviously, Fozzie can't pit because he'll be stacked, so he'll take the lead of the race. A big loss for that for him, because of course a 2-stop strategy is pretty easy around this track. And this might be why they weren't saying much about their strategies, because they were more thinking, I'm basing my whole strategy around these incidents that we're going to get throughout the race, and that's why they're making their stops now. This is their first mandatory stop. TJW, of course, now he'll get a chance to catch up. He's back in the running because he's already made his first stop today. He's pretty much on the same strategy as Josh Wilkins, Wace, everyone down from him. A couple of drivers have gone onto the hard compound tyres, possibly preempting a long run on these to go into the sauce at the end. They are Jess and Luke. Rest have all pitted for the medium compound tyres. 6 drivers are still out there yet to make a stop. They are Fozzie Bear, Matthias, Stephen, who are on the sauce, and then Jimmy Met, Infamous, and Storm on the mediums.
And we saw Jason having to wait quite a lengthy period of time, hence why Wace was able to get the jump on him in the pit stop. So this is not played out very well for Jason. Now, considering that he's one of the earlier pit garages, if you like, whereas Wilkins was the 3rd to last garage in the pit lane based on where the teams finished in the Constructors' Championship in Formula 1 last year. But either way, this has not played out very well for Jason in this race at the moment. He's down to 9th on track, which could prove to be something like 4th position once Fozzibert does come in, or maybe still 3rd once Fozzibert does come in for his stop. So if you're Fozzibert in the race lead now, what do you do?
Well, I suppose if you pit 9 and you're accepting defeat, perhaps stay out for a few more laps, try and build some sort of gap. He's unlucky that he was right behind his teammate when the safety car came out, because he couldn't pit, because it would cost him big time. But we know from this point it's an easy one stop, but he is going to bite the bullet and just fall to the back of the grid. So I guess he's not even going to try and build any sort of gap. Storms as well into the pit lane, so those two are going to fall right behind Demon pretty comfortably, but then they'll catch. That does shake up this race order quite dramatically.
I've just seen Doyle go through the polystyrene boards on the start-finish straight. I don't know whether Jason had to jam on the brakes there in front of Waze, but either way, Doyle went onto the grass and burst his way through the polystyrene blocks, and I'm not sure he'll be too pleased with that. I'm going through the blocks, and the last thing he wants is any floor damage to the car or side pod damage, because that's another thing that's been added to the damage mod for this year's game cycle, as TJW, who did pit at the end of the previous lap, well, I think his prayers have been answered, I should say, that he can now catch up to the back of this long crocodile.
Yeah, so safety car might come in at the end of this lap, because TJW, he's about sort of 15 seconds behind them, but he will surely catch that gap up, because sometimes if that last car isn't quite close enough, they will add another lap on, so hopefully TJW can get up to the back so we can get racing again. But it is then Matthias who leads for now, from Stephen, Jimmy Met and Infamous, but of course those four are yet to make their first pit stops. They're going to be doing something different than the rest of them. Have all made their stops. They're effectively just on a normal one stop now to the end of the race, and they can all pretty much go whatever they want from this point. If you've used the softs in the first stint and mediums now, you've already used your 2 allocated compounds. Some people might not have done so that might be worth looking into later on in the race, but those lights have gone off on the safety car, and so Matthias is at the head of the pack. Not something we've seen yet this season. It's all really been Ferrari and Alfa Romeo. Now we're going to see Haas, Williams, McLaren and Red Bull, and we're going to see how these guys who were at the front earlier handle the midfield fight. This could be where the race is won and lost. So early on, you do not want to take any big risks, as Matthias exits the final corner to restart the Hungarian Grand Prix. Looks like Jamie is already trying to have a little look at getting by Stephen, but Stephen's got the slipstream on the Haas, and he moves over to defend against Jamie as well. But the McLaren has still got through on the inside. Nice move. Josh Wilkins is already trying to put one car between himself and the next second place man of Wace, and he looks like he's going a bit wide. So look out actually for Wace trying to get through. Josh Wilkins really risking it around the outside of 2 towards the inside of 3. Nice driving to get out to 4th place, but now look at Wace, he's all over the curb. So easy to lose it here, but he's made the move stick, and that's superb driving from Wace. Jason's well getting through Infamous. They're doing a really decent job at this, but Jason's gone off the track, and that does cost him diving up the inside of turn 6, and he's been spun off. And that was a bit too over-ambitious perhaps for Jason. He needs to get himself back on the road, but he's spun a bit too much around, and he's definitely at the back of the pack now. And well, it was fast and furious stuff there, and nearly worked out for him, but not quite in the end. Stephen's trying to fight Jimmy Met. This is blocking Josh and Wace, who's all over the back of the Alfa Romeo. He's gone off the track. And here comes Wace. This is for the net race lead, remember. He's going dancing round the outside. Surely he'll have the inside for the final corner. And Wace looks like he's putting himself into the net race lead. What a superb lap he's having. But Josh now, can he get himself back round in the final corner? I'm not sure he can. Wace is through for now.
This is absolutely sensational racing between Wilkins and Wace as they come down the start-finish straight. And whilst we were discussing all of this, Jason's ambitious manoeuvre on the Red Bull of Infamous had resulted in coming to the spin, and the manner of which he rejoined the track wasn't particularly polite, so one of the stewards will have a look at that, because it was a dangerous rejoin to the circuit, and TJW has gone for a spin for the 3rd time in this race at least, so he's got his work cut out from here on in. But Matthias is still in the lead at the moment, with Jamie in second place now, Stevens third, and Weiss effectively the race leader in the Mercedes in fourth position.
Shame to see that TJW's gone backwards again. Then he'll literally be going from cold to frozen, unfortunately. It's a terrible race for him so far, but as long as he stays in the running, another safety car could put him back in. But that was some superb driving from Josh and Weiss. They both made some incredibly brave moves. They had to, because they knew they were under so much pressure. It's pass or be passed on those types of restarts, and we're definitely showing that you can pass around here. It is a bit of a myth that you can't pass, because Weiss was pulling moves in this last sector, and you'd never expect that to happen, and he made them work so well. And Josh is going off the track. He's taking the widest line I've ever seen, possibly a bit too wide, as Weiss is all over the back of Stephen, who's moving quite a lot on the straight. I don't know if you'd call that weaving. It's definitely on the edge, as the Williams goes a bit deep into turn 1. Can Weiss now get through towards turn 2 and put a car between himself and Josh Wilkins? Yes, he can.
That's a brilliant move from Weiss, right round the outside of the Williams of Stephen to put himself up into the top 3. The next man up ahead of him, I should say, is Jamie in second position. Jamie recovering after that crash in qualifying, where he could have been in the top 3 on the grid, if I'm honest with you. But now he's in second position ahead of the Mercedes of Weiss. Jason posting a new fastest lap. He's currently in 14th place right now. So the next man ahead of him is Storm. So he's going to be stuck behind him and losing quite a bit of time through these next sequence of corners. As we look to see Weiss get in front of Jamie as they come through turn 11. And now they approach turn 12. Weiss is most certainly going to have the DRS on the start-finish straight and the straight that follows turn 1. And Weiss should be able to make a move here as they come towards the last turn. And Weiss will want to get this done as soon as he can here. DRS wide open. Right on board with him now. He uses the ERS to good effect. Makes a move on the McLaren before turn 1. And that is second place going to him.
Looks like Josh Wilkins still can't get by Stephen as Doyle gets by Infamous. Of course, Weiss is yet another driver this season who's yet to win in one hub racing. We saw the 2 Ferraris came into the season winless. They've now got 1 win each. Can Weiss become the 3rd new winner in the first 3 races? Because right now he's looking unbeatable. He's having such a fantastic run on these tyres. So aggressive, but so controlled. And it's working perfectly for him.
So Weiss closing in into Matthias' gap. He's done very well to see out those soft tyres on this stint. As we watch Wilkins begin to make a move on the Williams of Stephen. He gets through. That was rather rude of him getting through there at turn 8, but he made it work. So Wilkins up into 4th place, crucially, in his quest for the race victory. Has just seen the other Alfa Romeo of Alex Liot go toe-to-toe with the Red Bull of Infamous as they go through turn 11. There's Luke Sered right behind, the debutant for the prospects here this season. Unless he's changed his username, of course. But either way, he's in 9th position ahead of Fossibert, who's got a lot of work to do from where he is.
Yeah, Fozzy, this is what we were worrying about as Matthias enters the pit lane as well as Stephen. It's this being stuck in the midfield where you can't pass as easily. We wondered if Fozzy would struggle with it. And, well, as he does make the move on Luke to go up to 7th place, he is such a long way now behind Weiss, the race leader. Let's say the gap between him is 5.4 seconds now, and just, 5 cars as well. So a really difficult task for him and his teammates even further behind. So it does look like it's quite the mountain now for Ferrari to climb, especially with Jason off in Narnia there. I think Jess might have pushed him a little bit wide in turn 2. So Jason doing his best to get through, but now he's into the back of the Alpine driver. These cars don't take much to get much damage. I'll check the task. Let's see if he's got any damage, because that would make his comeback even more painful. But he's trying his best to get through. You can't blame him for trying. I think he has got away with no damage as well, so that's good to see. But, well, you can see he's struggling. Josh Wilkins now is on the back of Jimmy May. He wants to get through as soon as possible because Weiss has disappeared. The gap is nearly 3 seconds between these two now. And Josh, he certainly knows it. He can see the race win disappearing away from him.
So Wilkins all over the back of Jamie here as they battle over second place. Weiss is shooting off into the distance now. So the longer Jamie can keep Wilkins behind, the better it will be for the Mercedes driver for later on. But Wilkins is going to have DRS here to make a move. And it looks like Jess has gone for a spin on the exit of the penultimate turn. That sees her fall down the order. That's a shame for her. She's got her work cut out from here on in. Wilkins, meanwhile, at the front, up into second place.
Yeah, got it done on the DRS. Now it's all about chasing down the race leader. Jason's now got through another car. He got through Jess just before she spun, and now up into 9th ahead of Ols. And so has 2.6 seconds of clean air to try and get up the road and catch Luke now, who's on the hard compound tires, so it shouldn't be too hard to catch.
So Jason's next driver ahead is Luke Red, who's on the hard tyres. He's another 2.5 seconds up the road. So Jason's got a bit of time, actually, to make up before he does get onto the rear wing of the Haas. There's Fozzie Bear, his teammate, in 7th place behind the Alfa Romeo of Alex Lilliart as they go through turn 9. There's Infamous. Infamous done rather well, actually, to remain out there. He's been on the medium since the start of this race, and he's managed to find himself up into P5. Now, I'd imagine he'll go on to a couple of sets of soft tyres to see out the remainder of this race.
Yeah, we'll see. That should have some good pace at the end, going soft towards the end. I mean, I know the other guys only have one more stop to do, but they'll be on much older tyres towards the end, and that will really prove. This is why Jamie, he's staying as long as he can, because I imagine he'll probably go to, what, lap 15, 16? Same with Infamous, and just do 2 10-lap stints on softs, and just be rapid, especially if you get a good time safety car. Those two won't be in that bad a spot, actually, so we worried about them when the safety car came out. But with the way the race is panning out, they might actually make this work towards the end. I did this sort of thing in Bahrain last week in my race, and new softs compared to mediums, even in the middle of the race, are so much faster. So these guys can certainly make it work, and they've done well not to fall too far behind. I mean, Jamie's only lost 2 positions, really. It's done very well indeed. Now, Jason's just picked up a penalty, so it's not going too well. He has caught up to Luke, mind you, but the penalty is not going to really be very useful for him, especially when he's in so much traffic in the first place.
We were just watching a little bit of Matthias. He's just got damage to his front wing on the Haas whilst he was battling with the Aston Martin TJW. What was 13th position, and then they both got by Demon, who just kind of let them through. So Matthias' race not getting any better at the moment. He's got a lot of ground to make up from 13th place, just outside the points, and now he's being penalised for track limits. Yeah,
just 3% damage. But we've seen on this game just how little damage can cause massive consequences. It's really aggressive on this game. It's Josh Wilkins that's the fastest lap of the race, and Wes, well, he'll be seeing that Alfa Romeo getting ever bigger when he looks behind him and sees, probably in the next couple of laps, the DRS will probably open as well, and we could have a good scrap for the lead. These two, remember their fight earlier on? We know they're very good at it around here. I'm looking forward to seeing those two going for it. Alex Lilliart can't quite get by Infamous. Fozzie Bear is setting himself up for a move up the hill. Can he risk it up to turn 4? He decides to back off. He couldn't find a way through. He looked on both sides, but Alex had that one covered off. But not able to get by the Red Bull.
Yeah, that was rather sensible of Fozzie Bear to just back out of it before they got to the corner, because otherwise there most certainly would have been contact. Now Jason is 0.3 of a second behind Luke's Red, so should get ahead of him rather soon here. He knows he's the quicker driver than the Haas, so it's just a matter of time. He'll probably do it on the start-finish straight. That's his best bet. Now, what about Jamie and Infamous? I'd imagine they'll stay out there for a little bit longer before they do decide to duck into the pits for their first set of...
Where's is he in the wall? Not quite, but I think Josh has got him. He went really wide in the penultimate corner, and this isn't the first time I've seen these two going side by side in the final corner, and I think it's sensible there from Josh just to sit behind. But Wes has actually got the DRS, so Josh maybe misjudged it. I misjudged it. I thought Wes perhaps wouldn't quite get the DRS, but he did. So he recovers from his mistake. He went off the track in the penultimate corner. It must have just broke too late, and Josh there couldn't take advantage of it. He's about as close as he would have been anyway, because that gap had closed to within a second. So these two should be in for a race on scrap really now towards the end. They've got a good gap to the rest of the field, so they can go for it as long as they don't have an accident.
Yeah, so Waze was very, very lucky to keep going there. As an instant set to 1, that looks like Storm has gone for a spin, so that's the second Alpine driver going for a spin. I think he's got damage to his car as well by the looks of things.
Yeah, 45% damage on left-hand side as well.
Yeah, well, I can tell because the front left end plate's gone missing, so that'll be Storm off into the pits.
Yeah, and like I say, even half damage on one side feels like the whole thing's gone, so that is curtains for him for now. I guess he's just going to have to make sure he gets back to the pits. Don't have another accident on the way in when the rage is building up, you know. Just keep it calm. Another safety car, you could be back in this one. And let's see Josh Wilkins again. What's his closing speed going to be like on the main straight? Because he really backed off on the last lap. Didn't want to get too close to Wace. But now he's got the DRS, he's got the ERS he can use, and he'll have 2 doses of this DRS, as Infamous and Jamie do pit at the end of lap 15. So Josh uses the main straight to close in. Let's see what the exits are like. It's okay for Wace. Wace should be alright with that, and he will keep in the lead of this race.
And just watch Fozzie Bear go toe-to-toe with Alex Lilliard right round the outside. Goes the Ferrari. Can he make it stick coming out of turn 2? I think Fozzie Bear's done it here. The Alfa Romeo ran wide on the exit of the turn. Fozzie Bear gets through, and now Jason will be fancying his chances with the Alfa Romeo to get past, to go up into 5th place. As Storm gets penalised for speeding in the pit lane. I don't know if he'll decide to carry on, to be honest with you. I think he may as well in case we do get a safety car. But both Alpine drivers are down to second to last and last place on the road now.
So the 2 Ferraris then. Jason just set his fastest first sector of the whole race. And Fozzie, what a move on Alex. So that was properly committed. If Jason can get through Alex now, well, they'll be sitting 4th and 5th. And if they can keep the pace up, then perhaps they could be challenging for this race win later on. Remember, we're not even halfway through yet. So Ferrari, they've had that bad hand dealt to them with the strategy and the spin for Jason, but they are fighting back, and they're fighting back very strong indeed. This is going to be intimidating the rest of the field. They can come back from where they were to still be challenging at the front. It could really prove their championship prowess.
So Alex Lilliard's just lost the position to Jason, who's trying to fight back. He will have that dose. Oh, Jason spins yet again in the Ferrari. Oh, that's terrible up there for Jason, who spins right down the order to 8th position. And he's got his work cut out from there now.
Well, we've seen him come back once. He hasn't lost as much as he did last time, but he now has 3 more cars to overtake. I wonder if he'll maybe even take the initiative to pit early now and get off those tires, because they'll be overheating. Although you don't want to pit for the another set of mediums, so I guess he might just have to stick with it and go to softs later on. But that's a real shame. Like I say, not as bad as the first one, but without the spins, like I say, he's got the pace out there. And, well, he's still got the second half of the race to catch up, but he's not making it easy for himself, is he? No,
definitely not, and this is not great in his battle with Fozzie Bear in the battle for the championship. At least it wasn't Stephen that he came together with, unlike in Bahrain. Those two already have got history this season in terms of their tussle amongst themselves. As we watch Wilkins and Wace, we're hoping to see this battle keep it clean. And Storm has retired from the race. He's crashed out on the exit of turn 1. And we have our second safety car of the race. This could change things now. Jason's able to get into... Yeah, I was just going to say, Jason's just got into the pits. But I think the safety car has missed the race leader. So the advance that Jason thought he might have got isn't going to be. So, in fact, it's come at the right time for the leaders, but not quite so for Jason.
Well, at the very least, he now avoids the stacking situation at Ferrari. That's something that Alex Lilliard might find himself worrying about for Alfa Romeo. But it does mean that everyone can pretty much make their second mandatory stop now, their final stop, in other words, and they can get themselves to the end of this race. If you are Wace, I don't think he's going to have to worry about getting held up in the pits, especially with Doyle in the wall. He's lost it under safety car, and he's losing out now in the podium positions. And it's, what a shame for him. It's deceptive, that low speed, because you can just lose your concentration. And that appears to be what's just happened to Doyle there. And he's fallen from 3rd place down into 7th place. So that promotes Fozzie Bear right up the field. How many times are we going to see this happen this season, where he starts low, or lower anyway, and from the safety car restart, and gets himself back up? Now he'll be on the back of the leaders. Freeway scrap for the lead when the safety car comes in, but I imagine everyone's going to pit. But what tire on to? Will it be mediums for everyone? Will some risk the sauce? They might fall apart towards the end of the race, but if they get another safety car, it'll work. Where's his sped? Oh,
yeah.
Under safety car as well, there's nothing to gain, but he's sped. And well, that's a huge mountain to climb now. I don't know if he'll be able to climb it.
He had nothing to lose as well, because he wasn't going to lose a position to Fozzie Bear or needing to wait for him to go past. So Waze has just completely wasted that opportunity, unless he does decide to pit again, which he won't want to do later on unless we do get another safety car. But yeah, that 5-second penalty is going to cost him later on. So Matthias has stayed out as well on his medium, so I don't know whether he'll stay out for another lap or just come in for his final stop on the restart. But to be honest, I'd have thought he'll maybe try and go into the pits and get a change of tyres and get that front wing replaced.
Yeah, I would just make the pit stops now, because they're the only two, Jamie and Matthias, who haven't made their second stops yet. So they might as well just do it. Because, yeah, even if you get another safety car, I guess you could pit. But if you're thinking of pitting on that next safety car, there's a good chance everyone else is as well. Because if you're going to be pitting later on, it'll probably be onto some fresh softs. So really, they have no reason not to pit under the safety car. And well, they sort of missed the boat on that opportunity, because they wouldn't have fallen to the back. Now they will most likely fall to the back if they do decide to pit. They would have been probably, what, 11th, 12th? But, well, they've made their bed, now they can lie in it. We'll see what pace they have on these tyres.
So, despite that error in the pits, or speeding in the pits, Waze is still in the lead on the road with Wilkins second. It's Matthias third, Fozzie Bear up to fourth place now, Jamie fifth, Alex sixth ahead of Luke's Red and Ols, Jason in ninth, and Doyle rounding out the top 10 at the moment. TJW in 11th and Stephen in the final points paying position in 12th place. Now the driver within the top 10 with the fastest lap, that is Wilkins in second position, and those outside the top 10, that would be Stephen in 12th.
Well, you never guess what. Josh Wilkins, net race leader, has also never won a race in one hub. So even though we could see Waze not winning his first, we could now see Josh winning his first. The third place man in the championship. Really, it's, in terms of the championship context, ideal if he wins this race, in fairness. But he's got to get there first. He's in the position to do it now. And the safety car, I'm surprised it's still out, frankly, because the whole pack is caught up, but it should certainly be in at the end of lap 20.
Yeah, I think the reason why is because it would normally do at least 2 laps unless it's in the closing stages of the race, only like a few laps until the end. But because the safety car waited for the leaders to pick up, it didn't actually circulate round until the leaders actually caught up to it, if that makes sense. So that's sometimes the algorithm of the game itself. Waze will be thinking about just bridging as big of a gap over the others, and he's got track position to do that.
So, only one driver's on the hard compound tyres. That's infamous, so he might struggle for pace on those because everyone else is on mediums and they should be pretty comfortable getting to the end on those. So possibly the wrong choice for him there. But again, we'll see how he gets on. But as long as he keeps it on the road, I suppose there's a chance of points. Remember, the top 12 get points, so only 3 drivers at the moment not scoring points. Of course, fastest laps could get you points as well. But we'll focus on the main point scoring for now, and we'll see when the safety car goes in how aggressive everyone wants to race. Is Fozzie Bear going to want straight past Matthias as soon as possible to try and break up this new winners brigade and try and take his second victory of the season and extend his lead at the top of the championship? The safety car is now coming in. He's got a good gap to his teammate Jason of 5 cars, which is good for him. He'll gain on him. And if he can get ahead of Josh Wilkins as well, Fozzie Bear could find himself with a huge championship lead coming up to the next race. But we have still got 15 laps to go in this race, and Wace is controlling the restart. Safety car in, so Wace can go whenever he's ready to, and I think he's chosen that moment to be now as he heads around the final corner. Josh Wilkins is nowhere near close enough to try and challenge, but Fozzie Bear is absolutely challenging Matthias. He's going to get him on the start-finish straight, and he's straight up into P3. Good restart. Alex Lilliart is trying to get by Jimmy Met, who had good pace, remember, earlier on, and he's decided not to try and get past him. He's not let Luke get right around the outside for Haas. Decent driving, but he hasn't quite got the exit. Can he try and get through? Jimmy Met side by side with Matthias, and they've made some contact. If Luke's clever, he'll be able to get both of them at once. He's definitely got his teammate up to P5 now for Luke. What a race he's having on, I believe, his debut. He's made both stops. He's currently running at P4 now.
We haven't spoken much about Luke's Red throughout today, but he's done a superlative job to get himself up into 5th place. And who knows where he could end up if he keeps it up. He's now behind Jamie, who's sitting in 4th place and on older tyres in comparison to him. And Stephen's gone for a spin in the Williams. Not sure what's happened to him, but he's rejoined anyhow. But he's well down the order in 15th place. So Wace is 0.8 of a second clear. He needs to pull out that crucial 1 second margin so that Wilkins does not get the DRS.
Yeah, we absolutely got to do that, because if he's stuck in DRS, then that means he's never going to make the 5-second gap, as Alex gets overtaken by Jason, who nearly went smashing into the back of Matthias, but luckily just missed the Haas. Jason with a penalty, remember, so he's got some work to do if he makes himself high up the grid as well. But Wes, yeah, not the fastest lap. Josh does seem to have this under control. 2 seconds clear of Fozzie Bear as well. Could this be in our first Alfa Romeo victory of the season? Could it be Josh's first victory of his one-hub career? He's only got 14 more laps. Just hold it in this position and the win is yours.
So Fozzie Bear in a couple of seconds behind Wilkins at the moment. Just want to see how Jason gets on here, because the next driver ahead of him is a Ferrari-powered Haas of Matthias in 6th place. As Ols in 9th place, and he's got Doyle behind him. And then TJW in the Aston Martin infamous Demon, Just Gamer and Stephen. The rest of the runners, 15 out of the 17 that started, are still circulating around the Hungaroring. Waste, he's not pulling away, is he? He's not doing enough. Wilkins is closing in all the time, everywhere he can.
He might think about passing him soon, because he doesn't want to get Fozzie Bear anywhere near him. If he has a car between himself and the Ferrari, then that makes his chances of winning much bigger, Josh Wilkins. So we'll see if he goes through. I think we have to wait another lap before DRS gets enabled, but that certainly doesn't stop him going through if he thinks he can. Jason, for the second time now, has gone through at the start of the final sector. He likes that late braking move, and he's got by Matthias this time, so he's up into P6 now. Josh Wilkins doesn't get DRS here because the detection point is at the end of the lap, so he doesn't get to try that until the end of this lap. Fozzie Bear, like I say, fastest lap of the race, and so that's why Josh needs to get by Waze quickly. That 1-car buffer gives him a couple of extra laps of breathing space before a potential fight at the end. Look at Alex Lilliard and Matthias, they're pushing each other, wheel binding multiple times, but on the outside, looks like Alex Lilliard will try and get it done, but again they're wheel binding.
Ooh, contact, and Alex spins!
They will possibly have something to say about that at this judge, because they were binding the whole way through. Potentially Matthias didn't quite leave enough room. We'll see what Stuart ends up saying about that one, but Alex right down to the back, unfortunately. And look at this top 3 now, they're all within the DRS of each other. This is getting very interesting, as we have another yellow flag. That is for Doyle this time. He's lost it on the turn 5 curb, and Alex has lost it at turn 4 as well. A lot of people having a lot of mistakes. Josh can't get by Waze at the minute, and him having to hold back in this last sector will be enough to just close that gap as Matthias now goes off the track. Perhaps there was damage with that contact earlier on in the lap. Top 3, they're all in DRS. I want to stick with this fight because surely Josh Wilkins has no choice. He's got to get the move done now, because if he holds it back anymore, he might find himself under pressure from the Ferrari, and he's the man who he's really fighting. Wace moves to the middle of the track. Josh Wilkins dives down the outside of turn 1, and Wace will do his best to try and stay ahead of the race, but I don't think it's going to work, because on the inside of turn 2 now, Josh Wilkins surely has the line, and Wace is just going to have to sit back as Josh Wilkins takes the lead.
Wilkins covering his line to get ahead of the Mercedes of Waste. That was a very important manoeuvre there from the Alfa Romeo driver to put himself up into P1 and crucially on the victory. Wilkins is most certainly on my hot list for today. He's been in dazzling form of late, and provided he does not get a time penalty like he did so last week that cost him the race victory, it looks though it's going to be some redemption here today at the Hungaroring. So Waste all over the place at the moment. He's struggling to get those cars through the tolerance, and now he's got another penalty for good measure.
8 seconds now, that is so crucial, because that could take him off the podium. I mean, Luke Red's looking decent for a podium if he can just have the pace up. I know he's been overtaken by Jason, but if he can just stick with him, you know, it's a good result for that Haas driver there today. That'd be fantastic to see. He's certainly not one of my drivers who could be on for driver of the day later on, but we'll worry about that when we get to the end of the race, because we don't really know how it's all going to finish yet, because if Fozzie Bear can get by Wace as Josh Wilkins sprints off into the distance, we could be seeing our leading fight being crafted around us as Wace gets overtaken again for the second lap in a row. Tried to get the cut back, successfully got the cut back. A little bit too much wheel spin though. He would have been able to pull fully ahead, but he'll still try on the outside. Big contact as they wheel bind through 2, but Fozzie Bear is into second place, and this is where Wace just has to hold his nerve, keep his head. He's still running P3 on the road. There's still a good result on this for him. Don't take too many risks and don't end up facing backwards like we're seeing Jason doing twice today already.
Yeah, that's another penalty there for Jason, so he's got his work cut out, but he has just got in front of Jamie. to put himself up into 4th place as his teammate Fozzie Bear gets through. What can you tell us there, Owen, by your reaction to something?
Yeah, Wace is pushing too hard. He's got to calm it down. There's nothing worth crashing for in this situation. I know he's not leading the race anymore. He's probably a bit flustered. He's used all his ERS as well. But if you get to the line, it's crucial points. And consistency is key this season. You want a promotion up to the higher tiers, you got to be finishing the races. And he's just got to get his head down, do these last 10 laps. If he finishes P3 on the road, it's still a decent result.
Yeah, so Wace in 3rd place and out of DRS range of those at the front. Jason, absolutely on fire, but he does have that penalty of Wace now 6 seconds ahead of him, but Wace has got 8 seconds of time penalty. So even if Jason could just get to within a couple of seconds of him, he'd move in front of the Mercedes driver, but he'll want to get ahead of him so he can pull away from those behind as Matthias comes into the pits for Haas, and he's got no front wing to his car.
Yes, so he will be falling towards the back. He could do with a safety car to get him back in. It isn't uncommon to see safety cars from debris, but clearly that hasn't happened this time. So unfortunately the Haas driver falls to the back, and that's not Fozzie Bear, is it? Facing the wrong way, just where his teammate spun as well earlier in the race. Fozzie Bear now has made a mistake, and he's fallen right down the order. He's down to P8. Josh Wilkins is breathing a huge sigh of relief because that's his main rival for the race victory now off the road. His next nearest proper rival is going to be Luke 2 Red, and he's miles behind. His gap to the race leader is 9.3 seconds, so now if Josh can just keep it on the island, don't get any penalties, it should be our first ever victory coming his way.
So Fozzie Bear, another driver going for a spin. Ferrari have had a quite troublesome day, unlike them, considering how their season has panned out in the prospect here. But Fozzie Bear is very much up against it now. He's got the Red Bull of Infamous, who haven't spoken too much about in this race, actually. But he's right on the gearbox of the Ferrari as they go down the start-finish straight. Is he going to make a move on it? He's using the ERS, although the Ferrari has got more ERS storage than the Red Bull. Infamous dive into the inside, gets his elbows out. Just avoiding contact there, but he's going to have the high ground because he's got the DRS before they get to turn 2, and Infamous is through up to 8th.
Yeah, Fozzie Bear can't... Oh, he's hit the back of him, but he can't risk another spin because his tyres are cooked as Jess spins round. He's got to wait a lap or two before he races too hard because he will overheat and spin. So he just... Oh! Well, Infamous broke so early, I thought Fozzie Bear was going to go right over him, but he just got through. Infamous probably could have been a little bit more aggressive there, and should have kept that position really, but at least there was no contact. Fozzie Bear did get back ahead in the end then. So yeah. He does sit P8. He's crucially just got to make sure he has no penalties because there could be places in it for the end of the race for him there if he just keeps on the road. Yeah, there's been mistakes, but don't fall the last hurdle. There's still points in this for you.
I think we saw Jess as well going for another spin. I think, as much as I hate to say it, she would be on my cold list today because she's been in too many spins. I mean, to be fair, after I spoke to her last night, Hungary is not her kind of track at all, if I'm honest with you, but that's not going to stop me from mentioning her on my cold list for today. In contrast, Josh Wilkins is on his way to victory at the moment. He's got a 3.5 second lead, or just under that at the moment, but Wace and Jason's time penalties would drop them back, so Wilkins has got all the time he needs to keep their car on the island, and it's going to be a first victory in One Hub Racing.
Do remember as well, I know we're talking about Jamie Matters, he's pretty much not in this scenario, and that's because he's only made one stop. And he's been in this league long enough to know he's got to make another stop, so he's not going to forget about it. He will just take that pit stop as late as he possibly can. There's pretty much a guaranteed fastest lap in it for him at the very least, but he's shown the pace at the very least that he should be up at the front at some point this season because he's not fallen too far away from these guys. Same happened earlier on. So if he can be on the same strategy as everyone else, I can see Jamie getting some results this season. The pace is there.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie's definitely got some good pace. It showed in Bahrain before he made that mistake that cost him a very high points position, as Luke Ray gets the time penalty for track limits now. Now, I suppose the good news for Jamie is that a lot of the drivers most of the drivers have time penalties, whereas Jamie doesn't do. So that's something to bear in mind. But Jamie carries on for another lap.
Yeah, that could cost Luke the podium, that penalty, because Wace's 8 seconds is now, yeah, so he'll finish 4th, possibly than Luke. It's still a good result, but it actually would mean that Waste, Jason and Luke, it'd only be Jason and Waste swapping places second and third, which is not a bad recovery for Jason. Like I say, after all these incidents today, looks like second place could be on the board, but he's got to close another second, so as long as he does that, he should get second place. Ignore that, he's got another penalty, and that will put Luke back on the podium.
Yeah,
spoke too soon.
Yeah, that could potentially put Luke on the podium on debut, actually. And Jamie in 4th place, still needing to come into the pits, and Jason, that 9-second time penalty, that's going to cost him dear, isn't it? But I suppose the good news for him is that Fozzie is down the order as well, so Fozzie won't be opening up the championship lead as big as some of the drivers thought they were going to do here at the Hungaroring. Wilkins on course for victory for Alfa Romeo in the team's first victory of the season. Wace currently in 2nd place on the road, but he's going to drop back. So potentially, Lutz Red could finish 2nd.
There's the potential for that. I don't think, without that first penalty that Luke got on the last lap, but possibly 2nd was there, but now the gap's about 9 seconds between the two of them, and so he would have been okay, but not anymore. So he's just got to focus on Jason, as Jamie now does pit. You'll see the direct gap now, 5.8 seconds, and so basically Jason's about to retake a podium position. I don't think the pace is quite there for Luke. Fozzie Bear's now in a position where he's got a little bit of free air. Obviously he's got no penalties, and so if he can really put his foot down towards the end of the race, and if he can get within 9 seconds of his teammate, then he could find himself now possibly actually extending his chance to lead to him. Alls as well, podium in it for him. He hasn't got any penalties, so definitely a chance for him. We'll keep our eye on that. He's just within Jason's window, but with 6 to go, he could easily fall outside that. TJW was at the back for so long today. He was on the cold list coming in. I'd say he's recovered quite well, actually, because he really was nowhere, wasn't he? Multiple times, and now he finds himself running in 6th place.
TJW has had a better race than we thought he would do. I mean, he had his maladies at the start of the race, but he's got it all together, and he's put himself within range of... And Fozzie Bear's being penalised again, so that increases... Oh, he's on 3 seconds now as Fozzie Bear, so that's not going to help his chances of finishing high up in the result order.
No, that was his one saving grace there today. The fact he hadn't got a penalty, it could put him up, but now he does. So still should make it some positions, but not as much as he might have done. Alls now is trying to pass Luke too ready. He doesn't want to waste too much time doing this, because as it stands, he is within Jason's window, and that would put him onto the podium today, and that would certainly be a very good result for Alls, who I think I've been saying before that he feels like he's in the midfield this season. So if he can get a podium today, he'll be absolutely over the moon. His teammate is now carving his way through the field in these new softs. He's got no penalties. We'll see how high he can get up, because there could be some good points in this for him, and a fastest lap, of course. So Jimmy Met making good ground. McLaren could end up with quite a lot of points today. And Alls, if he can finish on the podium, he is a driver who has had 29 finishes in this league and 29 points finishes. He's extremely consistent, and if he can get the podium today, it would be his 8th in One Hub history.
This has been a superlative performance from Alls. And he's right behind the halves of Lutz Red. He'll finish ahead of him with the penalties applied, but he'll want to get ahead of him on the road so that he can go after Jason and Wace. He needs to get past him really now, doesn't he? But he's going to have DRS on the start-finish straights. He's got the Aston Martin to look out for as well. So as they come through the last turn to begin the 32nd lap for these guys. And Lutz Red's just pulled away, got nice traction on the exit, and that's what's given him the upper hand, although Alls is coming back at him.
He really could have done without that wide moment at the start of the final sector, because that could cost him the podium now, because he's about to fall outside the 9 seconds gap. And so that, again, saving Jason there, because every lap that All sits behind, he's keeping the ERS on as well. That's not going to help his traction out of the corners, could easily lead to a spin, so he's got to turn that off, because he's also wasting his ERS. So perhaps there won't be a podium in it for him today, but still 4th place, absolutely in it for him. But yeah, we'll see what he does in the last couple of laps. If he gets by Luke and has some good pace, perhaps he can catch it in the end. But really, if he wanted that podium, he would have been passed at the start of this lap, and he couldn't quite do it. Yeah,
so Stevens being penalised again. He's in 9th place at the moment, but a 6-second time penalty would drop him. Or it will drop him down to 12th place, wouldn't it? So Stevens had his work cut out today yet again, and Alls has been penalised for track limits. He really didn't need that.
But this is helping Jamie because he still has 3 more laps. He could pass a couple more cars, and if he keeps this on no penalties, and this could be actually a decent result for him. And despite he got unlucky with a safety car, decided not to pit early, stuck with his strategy. I said these salts would be quick towards the end. It's proving so, and actually, yeah, he should finish at least 8th. I think that might be all he gets though, but we'll see. That's not bad as TJW now comes past Alls, and since everyone around him's got 3-second time penalties, this is for 5th place on the road, effectively, as Fozzie Bear now catches on these two as well. They don't want to fight too hard, but they're making contact! And Fozzie's nearly into the side of Alls, and that could have been a huge points loss right there in his championship, but luckily he kept it on the island, but boy, that was close.
Another twist in the race as well, Owen, because Jason's lost his front wing as he came out of turn 4, so that'll be him off into the pits. So Jason's race continues to get worse here. This is by far his worst showing of the season out of all the 3 races.
Look out, because there's a lot of trains coming through here, and Luke now absolutely fighting for the podium with TJW. The man who was right at the back of this race, he's suddenly putting together a proper driver of the day performance, isn't he? But can he get by Luke 2 Red? Because now there'll be 2 laps to go. The 2 Ferraris have had a nightmare today, and that is just unbelievable to see Jason into the pit lane. He might have a chance at the fastest lap, but that's all he's going to get.
So Luke Red goes through up into 3rd place on the road. Just looking at the penalties at the moment, and as it stands, he would be finishing on the podium. Wouldn't finish 2nd, so that's a blessing actually for Wace, who will be in 2nd position. Just seen Fozzie Bear make a move on Alls to get up into 5th place as well. So Fozzie Bear on the penultimate lap of the race is back up into the top 5 as Jason into the pits for a new front wing, and I think Alex Elliott is in the pits as well.
Yes, I think he is, yeah. And that might be another fastest lap attempt for him because his car looks fine. But now, yeah, we're seeing the fight for the podium. Could Fozzie Bear end up with a podium? Because now TJW's picked up a 2nd penalty. So, I don't think, for all Luke Red's good work today, his pace is actually not that strong. And there's a few more positions happening as well because there's so much fighting. Jamie Met, he could get the podium as well if he can really get his foot on, because like I say, these soft tyres are so fast. He's already up to 7th place. I don't know if he'll have time, maybe if he had 1 more lap, but say TJW's 6-second penalty, he could get within that window, and that'll be a superb result for him as well. But TJW and Luke Red, they kind of need to have a scrap. Fozzie Bear wants to steal a podium right at the end of this race, and it would be a superb save for him. But as it stands, Josh Wilkins, he's driven effectively the perfect race. He hasn't got any penalties today. He's been the fastest guy really when he needed to be, and he's certainly put in a superb performance. And at the end of this lap, he will be coming through to take what will be his first ever victory in One Hub, the 3rd new winner in a row.
Oh, so it's in the wall!
There is the scrap we were wanting, and that is exactly what Fozzie Bear was asking for. TJW has crashed again, and this now gives Fozzie Bear a huge opportunity. If he can keep closing on Luke 2 Red, he could steal cruelly a podium off him. But in this championship, you take everything you can get, and this is exactly what he's looking for now.
So another piece of drama on the last lap as Stephen gets by Infos up into 10th place. So TJW, who was almost on the cusp of a podium finish, has thrown it all the way on the last lap. But we go to the race leader, Josh Wilkins. He's been absolutely astonishing from start to finish, battling out with the Ferraris to get into the lead of the race, as well as the Mercedes of Wace. It's going to come through the last turn. Wilkins is going to take his maiden victory in the One Hub racing. He wins the Hungarian Grand Prix in Budapest. Wilkins does it for Alfa Romeo. Wace is going to cross over the line to come home in 2nd place. Some recompense for crashing out in Bahrain 7 days ago. As we watch Luke Red and Fozzie Bear fight over the last podium position, it's going to be a drag race over the line, but Luke Red does it. He beats Fozzie Bear to claim his first podium finish on debut. Fozzie Bear 4th, Alls 5th. Jamie Met misses out on another position gain. He comes home 6th nevertheless. Stephen will drop back as Doyle takes 7th place ahead of infamous Demon 9th. Stephen will be 10th. Matthias 11th. Jason will be 12th and gets in the fastest up of the race. TJW crosses the line, presumably in 13th place. Jess will be in a lonely 14th position. She'll still remain on my cold list, to be honest with you, because she was just nowhere near the pace today. Absolutely nowhere near it in comparison to the others. Alex Lilliart, could he take the fast start point away from Jason now of those inside the top 10? Yes, he does. Yes, he does. So Jason only comes away, I believe, with just no points at all for Jason.
He finished 13th. That couldn't have been any worse. What a disaster, but what a race. I tell you what, Bahrain was a little bit subdued. We were waiting for the action. Never really came as in dramatically as this. That was an absolute classic, and a third first-time winner in a row, and the top rated championship have all won one race so far. It's proving that they might be the ones to beat this season, but really good result from Weiss. Like I say, kept his head after he lost the penalties in the pit lane. He certainly is a threat this season as well for Mercedes, and like I say, I cannot emphasise this enough. Luke has had such a good race today, coming from 14th place to 3rd. I'm going to steal this driver today off you straight away. You're going to have to pick someone else. Because Luke Red, absolutely, for me, is my vote for driver today. And I just got to say, your restart was so committed. You made the places up there, and that's kind of what made your podium. So I want to ask, why was that on the restart, and how was keeping your ball against Fozzie right at the end? Because that was a lot of pressure.
Okay, I'll just give my driver there in a moment, but in the meantime, here's the race result. Josh Wilkins wins with Weiss in 2nd place. Luke Red 3rd ahead of Fozzie Bear and Ols. Jamie Met doing very well to get back into 6th place and getting the point out of those in the top 10 for the fast start. Doyle 7th, Infamous 8th, Demon 9th, and Stephen round out the top 10. Matthias 11th, TTW 12th, Jason 13th, Jess Gamer 14th, Alex the last of the finishers in 15th, and getting the point for the fast lap out of those in the top 10, outside the top 10, I should say. Storm and Indecisive Mackie was the only drivers to not finish the race. So my driver of the day, I'm going to give it Josh Wilkins. Absolutely phenomenal, consistent all the way through qualifying, all the way through the race. It's for me. My question would be is, what contributed to the dominance you had of that race, and how important was it to keep it on the islands? So that may be 2 questions in one there, but I just can't resist giving him it. It's just, he was absolutely fantastic for me today.
I don't blame you in the slightest. That was a really good performance from him, but I did have to get certainly 2 drivers absolutely fully deserve it. Of course, only one can win it. That's all down to your votes. Just before we close, I want to quickly thank as well all the race premium drivers. That obviously is a massive help to us. So many people on the grid race premium, and it is, let's say, massively helpful. So thank you all very much to everyone there. And of course, one last time, a huge thank you to all our sponsors, Next Level Racing, Free and Sim Racing, and to our partners, Vespertine and ERT.
Yep. And in case you want to know the championship standings, this is all provisional, subject to any post-race penalties, of course. I can imagine there's going to be quite a few reports afterwards of all the incidents we've had throughout the race today, Owen. But Wilkinson's victory has given him 20 championship points, which moves him, I think it moves him in front of Jason now into 2nd place in the championship. But with Fozzie Bear coming home in what was 4th place for him. So I believe in terms of championship points, I'm just trying to remember because the point system is obviously different with all the top 12 scoring points. It's 12 points for finishing 4th for Fozzie Bear, which moves his championship total onto 51. So Josh is now 12 points off the championship lead going to the next round of the season, which will be at Paul Ricard in France on Friday the 24th of September, 6 p.m. British Summer Time. Jason, Owen, your last thoughts. I have the word Jason in my mind throughout all of that. It was an incredible showing. Your last thoughts on today?
Well, our first truly brilliant race of the season. I think that was absolutely fantastic to watch. Anyone who said you can't overtake on this track, there's so much great action. That's definitely just proved the myth. And I tell you what, Paul Ricard next week is going to be another superb race. We've seen so many times in this league before. I remember back in the day, me and Austin commentated on, I think, Precision Tier, and it was the top 2 fighting the whole way through the race. It was absolutely stunning. You can fight and overtake at any corner on that Le Castellet circuit. It's going to be such a good race to watch next week, and there's obviously really good changeable weather there as well. So plenty to look forward to next week, so please do be there. Do be there, exactly that, and I cannot wait for Paul Ricard, even though on a track which is not potentially the favourite for like a lot of fans watching on TV, but when it comes to racing here, it's a totally different story. So do make sure you tune in a week's time, 6 p.m. British Summer Time on the 24th of September, Friday that is. Thank you to everyone that's been watching, and thank you to our sponsors as well that Owen's just mentioned, and we can't wait to do it all over again in a week's time. I'm Tom Cairns, he's Owen Wyatt,
and we'll speak to you again soon when One Hub Racing returns.